I'm Brian Robert Oliver, and this is the Infinite Eleven's Anatomy of Horror. Tonight, we're going to talk about Green Room, written and directed by Jeremy Saulnier. Coming up next. A tired, broke punk band at the end of a long, grueling tour through the US takes one last gig before heading home to play for a large group of neo-Nazis. After wrapping up their set, the guitar player sees something he wasn't meant to see, and before you know it, the band finds themselves trapped in the green room of a large Nazi clubhouse, and if they want to make it out alive, they'll have to fight. The synopsis might sound like exploitation cinema, and it is, but it's exploitation played to a much higher level. This is an example of a confident filmmaker coming into his own within the genre. Now, if you've seen and liked Jeremy Saulnier's previous film, Blue Ruin, then you'll really like Green Room. There are a lot of similar themes and settings between the two films. That is, themes of revenge and groupthink, us versus them, and the setting. It's a closed forest community in the Pacific Northwest for Green Room, and rural sections of Virginia for Blue Ruin. Kind of a dark side to Americana feel. But Green Room is much tighter and much more focused. It's lean and its pacing has a deliberate purpose that does not let up once it starts. But what's really interesting about this film is that the film we start out with in the first act is not the same type of film we end up with, and yet the tone feels absolutely seamless once it's kicked in. But I'll get to that later. So the first act, or the opening third, is more akin to what you'll see in a coming-of-age drama, or slice-of-life type film. Like somebody's looking back at this time in their life and remembering those little moments on the road that would seem so insignificant to anyone else. It's nostalgic, and if you've seen the film American Honey, it's a little bit like that. It's a little hazy and a little dreamlike. You have these point of view shots, soft focus, and if you've ever been on a long road trip, you might remember it exactly like this. Opening a window, wind in the hair, the sun peeking through the windshield onto your sleeping face. It's so personal, and then the pattern breaks. This is a phenomenal way to break up this pattern of warm, fuzzy, subjective shots, and then this massive shot of the beautiful Pacific Northwest. And then about 8 minutes later, we have a similar sequence in keeping with this style. This is great because it starts off visually familiar. It's in the van, but then this happens. So good. It's objective while still being personal, and in keeping with that sense of nostalgia. Look how happy and together they seem. Just us friends, some beer, and the night. And notice how there is no sense of foreboding. They are surrounded by darkness, but it feels safe. And look at that. Familiar? That's just really good storytelling right there. We get pulled in, immersed into these really personal moments that memory is made up of. But then we push all the way back so we can see this massive terrain this band has traveled while having these intimate moments. And these massive shots really enhance the feeling of being in the Pacific Northwest, and it really feels like you were there. And that is an extremely important thing for a film like this. So now, the second act and beyond, and as I said before, is a different film. Now we get into full-on exploitation cinema. Saulnier has mentioned Peckinpah's Straw Dogs and Verhoeven's RoboCop as influences, and I can certainly see it. But it's really reminiscent of Assault on Precinct 13 by John Carpenter, something that's been mentioned before, but also other films have similar formulas, like another John Carpenter film, The Thing. A bunch of dudes trapped together as they get picked off one by one, or even Alien has a similar formula. But here's the crazy thing, the tone never feels manipulated. It's so seamless, and that's because the visual structure of the film is so rock solid, and so is the script for that matter. So we were still in the first act here, but there is a bridge being built. What do I mean? This is the second act right here. So I can't show you full scenes at this point because there are just too many spoilers. The movie is too lean. But the fact that we've been here before in this very room when the stakes were much lower, and we've been following these people, it all feels familiar. So now that we are in horror territory, no beat is skipped. But notice how it's filmed and the amazing photography of DP Sean Porter. The shots are tight, really tight. There is so much movement going on, and it really adds to the claustrophobia of the rest of the film and for these characters. The frame is always full, and we are always locked into the performances. And I can't overstate this. While watching this movie again, the talent we lost with Anton Yelchin. He gives so much pathos and vulnerability to this role, and he really is the glue that holds this film together. He was fearless, and this was just another example of how he was able to lift up everything he was in. So, there you have it. Green Room stars Anton Yelchin, Alia Shawkat, Sir Patrick Stewart, Joe Cole, and Imogen Poots. Until next time.